Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Donovan Macri, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. Back from vacation, rested up. I don't know about better than ever. It's only getting worse at this point. As we approach 40, the days of going uphill are done. But thankfully, I am joined on this episode by two people who still are on their upward climb, continue to make me look better and better each week as I continue my inevitable decline. First and foremost, haven't seen him, haven't talked to him in, what's it been, 2 weeks?
Something like that. It's been a minute
since we recorded. Since we recorded our last two picks drafts, which we're not going to be doing today. More on that in a second. Jeremy Cohen, welcome back from vacation to you, sir.
Thank you. It was nice to get away. I was very much off Twitter this week, except for like 2 occasions whenever news broke. So that was nice. Good to regroup. But yeah, it was nice to be back. Not nice to go back to work per se, just because I enjoyed the act of being on vacation. But vacation time has come to an end. And here we are. How was your vacation, John?
Well, before we get to mine, I only have one important question. Did the plants survive?
It's a great question. One is probably not going to make it, which is a shame.
That's too bad.
It is. One you can't kill, and the other, things aren't going great. So, fatherhood as a plant daddy, it's not easy. So I get it.
I was thinking of this when you guys were talking about it on the pod you did with Benji, because Benji was talking about he had a vacation, I believe, without children, right? That he went on.
Yes.
And to answer your question, my vacation was fun. We got to stay at a house with a pool for a week, and that my mom and her lovely husband John were there. So some childcare assistance. But I was thinking about like going on vacation with kids is like you get an escort for the night, but you're a eunuch. So it's like it's wonderful to look at, and you could do some touchy, but ultimately, it's kind of like, where it's going to end, or more importantly, where it's not going to end. So I don't know. It was fun though. It was fun. It was a good time.
I think this is the part where I finally get to say, all right, we are already way off the rails. This is in new territory for me to be the one to say it, but I love that comparison. I think that metaphor. No, it's not. It's simile.
It's like a metaphor. Whatever. Yeah. Metaphor, simile. 6 and 1 half dozen the other. Andrew, Claudia, how are you doing?
I'm great, Grey Worm. How are you guys doing? I'd be better if the Mets knew how to score a fucking run against the worst pitching staff in baseball, but I'm here, be with you guys. My 2 good friends. I want to reiterate that my 2 good friends, to those who leave YouTube comments, I'm not going to call anybody out, but I was apparently showing some visible detest of John during 1/4 pick draft. And I want to just reiterate on the air.
Were you?
My 2 good? I have no idea. We were recording for 4 hours. At a certain point, maybe I was showing a little detest. If you can hear my voice, I went to the Mets game on Friday night with my cousins, who are in one of which who is like in town. So we had a cousin night, and the night was full of reasons to yell and scream. And here I am now, still recovering from that. Having said that, it's good to have the family back together with my 2 good friends, Mr. John Macri and Jeremy Cohen. Thankfully, we will not be recording 2 podcasts of drafts that are frustrating because I always end up in last today.
Can you also stop screaming at us, please?
I apologize.
Thank you.
I apologize.
Thank you.
So we're all together, not to do a 5th pick draft. We were going to do originally the next pick in our series of pick drafts, but it's been a few weeks since we've gotten a chance to speak together. I know Andrew, me and you had a chance to discuss one aspect.
I have to jump in. You have like a Pride Rock as the sunset is rising and the Lion King thing going on. Do you want to go fix that? And Jeremy and I
texted this all has to stay in. I texted my wife. I'm like, could you close the blind? That literally the sun started coming in as I started recording.
Everything the light touches is your kingdom.
Is not my kingdom. It's my children's kingdom. Hang on.
There you go. All right. Jeremy, long time no see. How are you, sir?
Things are going very well.
Yes.
Yeah.
You went on a road trip, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. Yes. So basically flew to.
All right.
This was the least.
Oh, wait,
Still on you. It's the other John. Yeah. It's
I
okay.
went on actually the most glamorous vacation you could imagine. I went through the Midwest. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically had been trying, was supposed to go to New Orleans for a few days a couple months ago. COVID happened, so that didn't work out. Tried to go out to all these other places, but for one reason or another, just didn't work out. So we ultimately decided, let's fly to Pittsburgh, and then let's drive to Cleveland, and then let's drive to Detroit. So, and we saw Ann Arbor as well. Stayed with some of my cousins in Cleveland. Had a really good time. It was awesome. I wouldn't have expected necessarily. I keep thinking of Joakim Noah, where it's like, who goes to Cleveland on vacation? Well, me, it was actually it's a really cool city. I really enjoyed it, and it was a fun road trip.
Pro Football Hall of Fame, yay or nay?
I'll say yay, but again, as I said to you, Andrew, offline, I wouldn't make the trip to go to Canton just for, I would go to Cooperstown just to go to Cooperstown. I would not go to Canton to see the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And granted, I'm not the biggest football fan. I appreciated learning about a lot of the history, and it was just very cool to see all of it. I would not go there on my own unless I knew I were going somewhere nearby.
I'll second that. We went before kids. We went for the induction of one Jerome Bettis, and that was cool to go. If one of your favorite players get inducted, it's awesome. I would second Jeremy though. I would not go just to make the trip.
So one I haven't been to.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
Wait till that Eli Manning in the Hall of Fame ready?
That's the funny thing. I should go for Eli's.
Yeah.
As soon as he's eligible, I think he'll be first ballot. So yeah.
To some, he's not even a Hall of Famer. So
I know to some that, crazy. Watched his career and saw how good defenses play,
Yeah.
Oh man. I just thought, you want to talk about off the rails?
What?
Is RJ Barrett the modern day Eli Manning?
No, definitely not.
Why not?
Because the Giants won something.
No, he's saying in the earlier years.
So the earlier years,
high draft pick, a lot of pedigree,
a lot of interceptions.
Giants fans.
I see what you're saying.
Fans were all in.
But here's the difference, right? The Giants traded up to get Eli Manning.
That's true.
And the Knicks were trying to get Zion, and then were bumped down. Whereas if it were like football, they would have held the first pick and they would have gotten Zion. But in that sense, a little different. So that's why I don't think it's super apt.
It's not apples to apples.
I get what you're saying, though.
Here's my answer. I hope so. I hope he proves all his naysayers wrong and wins 2 championships for the Knicks. And then you can be the me of being like, it was Tibbs and the defense that won championships, not RJ Barrett that led them to titles. Okay.
Wait.
And in this analogy, he would have to beat your boy Luka, the future GOAT, apparently twice in a season that Luka's 96-0 at that point.
Could if RJ Barrett bests Luka in 2 NBA championship rounds, I will write if anybody who wants it, email me, DM me, whatever. I will write a handwritten apology note to every person who wants one for anything I've ever said that offended them about RJ Barrett or anything. How about that?
I think or anything because the odds of it being RJ and against Luka, especially when they're going to be teammates together, it's just very improbable. So, when Luka comes to New York, all that. But yeah,
John, I'll babysit for a year if this happens.
I'll take.
To be fair, he means you, not your children.
Yeah.
All right.
Because at that point you will be of an age, as you mentioned, your decline. Okay, we're back on the rails, guys.
We're back on the rails. So here's what we're doing. We're basically doing a recap episode, but as I'm wont to do, I texted Andrew after we decided we were going to just talk about current events on the show, and I was like, I feel like I've talked about whatever I want to talk about, and I've continuing to write the newsletter every day, and I've written about a lot of the stuff that's in the news. So why don't you kind of guide this thing and come up with some questions or talking points that you think it would be valuable for Jeremy and I to discuss? So with that, I turn the wheel over to you, Andrew Claudio.
Okay. So now that I'm in the driver's seat, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Knicks Film School Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Claudio. Joining me is Mr. Jonathan Macri of Knicks Film School and the Knicks Film School newsletter, who has actually been really good over the past week, breaking down all of the different angles of the RJ conversation. And of course, Jeremy Cohen, your favorite capologist and knower of all things hypothetical trades. I've come up with the 8 biggest questions from the past 3 weeks of Scuttlebutt that you missed. Okay. So we'll start here with easily the number one. John kind of talked about it the other night. I want to get Jeremy's take. I want to see if there's any pushback. But the report from Ian Begley, and I can't say this enough, but I'll try to do it without laughing. Also previously reported by Mark Berman, and nobody took it seriously. With RJ Barrett now being mentioned in the conversation about not off the table in a Donovan Mitchell trade, will RJ Barrett now be the headline player traded for Donovan Mitchell? And more specifically for Jeremy, is it okay if he is?
Would you like
Jeremy? You want to go?
We'll start with Jeremy here. We'll start with Jeremy here.
So I was listening to your podcast on the flight back from Detroit, and I was actually seated in the exit row, and they had to hold me back from opening up the emergency door to leave the plane. I was told, no, sir, please get back in your seat. It took every effort. Here's how I see it. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying RJ Barrett should not be untouchable. Okay. In the grand scheme of things, there are so few players in the NBA who are actually quote unquote untouchable. It's probably like a handful.
I was about to say it's somewhere between 5 and 10.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to me, this is the general you, if you feel that at some point RJ Barrett should be made available, I can't knock you for that. If you feel he should be made available for this particular trade, I'm going to push back heavily. And the reason I'm going to push back heavily is because we talk about, the first star, great. You get someone like Donovan Mitchell in the building. Who's the second star, right? Like, you bet on RJ's upside. You bet on the fact that he's perfect salary filler because you would hope that he is still a quality piece nonetheless. You keep, as time moves on, you don't have to move him right now. You also probably shouldn't move him right now, considering the Knicks have very few wings to begin with. If you're bringing on Donovan Mitchell, you're going to want RJ Barrett, and you're going to want to bet on RJ because if you also believe that his value can increase over time, then him in a slightly lessened role than he's been in now gives him the opportunity to actually blossom. It's not about not having the opportunity. It's more about, all right, if the defense is focusing a lot of its attention on Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, whatever it may be, I don't know what the deal is with Julius Randle versus Obi Toppin. We can get into that afterwards. But if you look at RJ and you're basically saying, okay, he's going to be featured, but it's not going to be running the offense, so to speak, and the attention is going to be focused elsewhere, then the hope is that gives him the opportunity to take on someone on the wing who maybe he can exploit a little bit more defensively, where he can improve his efficiency, right? Because isn't the biggest thing or one of the biggest things with RJ about efficiency and finishing at the rim and free throw, all these, there's more, don't get me wrong, about pull-up shooting. There are warts. And it's like when you were suggesting, if you pull 30 GMs and I hear you. And at the same time, I don't give a crap about the pulling the GMs, because to me, it's all right. If you feel RJ Barrett is better suited, traded down the line, we can have that discussion later. Right now, what matters to me is, should RJ Barrett be in a Donovan Mitchell conversation? He shouldn't. He should be here, because the other thing, and then I'll turn it back over to you, or I'll turn it to you, is the thing that is more time sensitive is the Knicks have 11 first-round picks in 7 years. I would much rather consolidate in some manner right now than have to trade RJ Barrett and then say, all right, well, we have all these picks. What can we do? Because having picks is great, but there's a more time-sensitive manner of, we need to consolidate our roster and we need to consolidate our picks. We can do that right now and still keep RJ Barrett, and it seems add Donovan Mitchell per the reports that we have.
So one, I just answered. Oh, you didn't answer the most important part.
Also, why do you hate RJ Barrett? Sorry, that should have been at the top.
T-shirt on its way.
Yes.
Do you? So you do not think he will be in a trade?
No, I don't think he will be in a trade. But you go, and then I'll tell you why I think everything's
okay.
What's happening.
I don't think he's going to be in a trade either. And the reason I don't, and this is based on some what I've been able to glean from the reporting. And it's also, quite frankly, based on something I heard that I trust. It's not going to make a difference of 2 first-round picks. If I'm wrong, somebody cue this up for, a soundbite that you could throw back in my face for cold takes, exposed, whatever later. And that this would be a scenario where RJ gets traded and there are, I guess, 2 unprotected Knicks first going out with him. I don't think, based on my understanding, that is not something that is going to happen. That Utah would, if they got RJ, and I'm speaking in generalities here because I am absolutely, going to be very clear about this, absolutely not sure of any of the specifics of this. But my understanding is Knicks aren't getting off the hook of basically RJ is worth 2 picks in this transaction. If anything, he'd be worth 1 unprotected Knicks pick. I don't know the year. I don't know any of that stuff. Again, that's above my pay grade. This is my understanding. Second thing, caveat, as I'm sure you would agree to too, Jeremy, talking about RJ in a vacuum without knowing the unknowns of what else happens in the trade is kind of fraught. But let's have this discussion. A quick thing that I want to get out of the way, and maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but I'll throw it at both of you guys, actually. The part about the Knicks need wings right now, forget about what they should do. Do we think they care about how this team is going to look next year that much? If they think a move, whatever the move is, will be the best move for the long term, years 2, 3, 4, 5, X, so on and so forth. Don't we think that they'll make that move even if it causes some kind of issues next year because they don't have a full summer to make other roster decisions? Or am I off base, do you think, on that?
I don't think it's that you're off base. I think it's more that what happens if we go through another year, not similar to this, but
I was about to say
where it's not going to be that case, but it's like, all right, so the Knicks have 2 shorter guards who are good on offense to great on offense and defensive liabilities. All right. Yeah. They don't really have anyone who can match up with 3s super well. If Cam Reddish is here, that's great. But to me, Cam is very much, okay, I will believe it when I see it. I believe it can happen, but I can't see it right now. So what's going to be the case? You still have Randall, you still have Obi. I mean, he's kind of like the glue that holds a lot of it, he being RJ, that holds a lot of it together in the interim. And if you just have guards and bigs and no real wings, it's going to be, well, then how do you get wings? How do you acquire them? Because cap space is not going to be the case. No. You're going to have to find some sort of trade or it's a sign and trade.
But that's why you don't trade him. What you just, and that has nothing, let me rephrase that. It's not that it has nothing to do with this year. That's not about just this year, what you just said. That's about the foreseeable future in New York.
Correct.
That is why you don't trade RJ Barrett. You don't trade RJ Barrett if you think he continues to make even incremental improvements with efficiency off the ball. And you think he is going to continue to make, let's be frank, more than incremental improvements on the ball, even if the times where he is on ball decrease. Because if the Knicks are looking at this and like, well, we don't ever see a time when RJ is going to be a big on ball guy on this team. Well, then I don't know what we're doing here, because then you wouldn't be paying him what he will command in his next contract. And this gets into some intricacies here. I guess the point is, if they're high on him and they think he's going to keep getting better, I agree with what everybody is saying. They should not trade him. My only point, and apparently I didn't make it very clear, is that based on the numbers, again, if we take out of it what we all want to root for a homegrown kid. We all know what we want. Even me, I want to root for RJ Barrett too. I know that nobody believes that, but I do. Put aside what we want, put aside the homegrown, put aside he's built for New York, put aside this. If they look at the numbers and they're like, man, we don't see enough here where we can have faith, even with the built for New York and the work ethic and this and that and the other thing, even with all that, it's a conversation. That's all. It's a conversation. That's my only point that I was trying to make and failed, evidently.
I don't think you failed is the thing. My takeaway. I don't know if Jeremy, you felt differently. I think RJ is such a hot button issue because of how many young players have not been able to see their development path through, and the fact that he is, whether he's better than Porzingis or not, he is the most beloved player, young player or draft pick since Patrick Ewing. But I think, I don't know how you feel about this, Jeremy, but I feel like there's a similar sentiment, maybe not as intense because of where RJ was drafted, but there are people that want to see it through with Obi. There are people that want to see it through with Quickly. There's a Quentin Grimes hive growing. And I feel like it's more of a symbolism of where the Knicks and how they have treated draft picks over the past 20 years. That is all being built around RJ Barrett. Do you agree?
Can I just very, very quickly, but this isn't salary dumping Jordan Hill to make space at a run at LeBron. This isn't, I'm trying to think of other Knicks, first round picks that they have based. This isn't not playing Frank Ntilikina because fuck, who knows why. This is trading RJ Barrett to get a significant, I think that caveat needs to be in here with the understanding. I don't think they're going to do it. And sorry.
It does need to be there, but it goes hand in hand with, okay, if the whole point of getting Donovan Mitchell is you need to get the second star, then that's where RJ Barrett is better suited, whether it's organically him being the second star, whether 100%. It's down the line, he is potentially traded for the second star, whether it's both of these guys stay and the Knicks have enough salary and assets where they can acquire another star to add around both of them. So I hear you. Andrew, I don't think this is stepping on your toes, but can I go back to the beginning of the week and really just kind of give a lay of the land for where I've seen this going and how we've gotten here? All right. I'm going to go a little full wind horse here because I feel like
I can't wait for this.
I didn't see a lot of what was going on Twitter as I was largely removed from it. So if other people have pointed this out or if they've done a podcast, and I just haven't seen it, but the week was pretty calm. And then the first report is from Shams Charania of The Athletic, right? Where it's listing, okay, well, they're re-engaging in talks. And the conversation is essentially Fournier, Obi, what was it? Two unprotected,
two unprotected, and three protected.
Three protected. And additional salary, which is Deuce McBride for the math to work. And then, of course, we get new intel about RJ Barrett. It trickles through Berman. It goes through Begley. John, you've heard it. And at the whole time, and then we also have the report that the Cavs are interested and a lot is happening. So let me take it back a little bit. This whole summer before this newest reports that kind of were set off by Shams, it was all the Jazz. The Jazz were the ones who were focusing on it. They were pushing from the local media. They were pushing it through the national media. They were gung-ho on getting the word out there. And then this trade featuring Obi, Fournier picks and additional salary comes to light. And to me, it's, well, why would this leak? Why is this the sort of thing where we would want, who does this help? That's a huge package. Now, granted, I'm not saying that no team can top that. I'm not saying no team will top that, but it's the sort of thing where if you're the Knicks, you want the barrier to enter, the barrier for entry to be higher. Because if you're basically saying to the league, like, look at what we're willing to offer. You can come close and match this or not. It doesn't help the Jazz. The Jazz want to say the price is high. We value this, but I don't understand why they're leaking that offer. It doesn't benefit them. And then you get the news about RJ. And it's surprising to me because, and I'm just going to say, I mean, again, I know Berman reported too, but I want to talk about Begley as well, because when Berman was gone for a period of time, Begley was certainly doing his own thing. And the way it came off was, okay, well, RJ Barrett was not on the table. The Jazz didn't want him, all this stuff. Yeah. And now the Jazz, maybe they do want him, but more importantly, the Knicks are comfortable trading RJ Barrett. There's some in the organization. Well, hold on. I'll get to you. I will get to you. I promise. Some in the organization. What does that mean? Well, RJ Barrett was not drafted by Leon Rose. He was not drafted by this administration. He was drafted by Scott Perry and Steve Mills. Steve Mills, who's no longer here. I have no doubt that there are people in the analytics department who look at RJ Barrett and say, yeah, well, this isn't our guy. There's a reason. If we were in that position, we would not have gone after RJ. We would have done something different. And that's fine. But I thought it was very interesting that Ian specifically said, I don't know where Leon Rose's head is at. But it means one of two things, right? Number one, Ian, who said earlier that RJ was not on the table and now is on the table, is not telling the truth. And I know that's not the case.
That's not the case.
That's not Ian's MO. Never has been, never will be. Or the second option, which is that something has changed dramatically. Okay, well, what would have changed dramatically that really hasn't been reported? It's not another team saying, we've got this great offer and the Knicks suddenly saying, crap, we have to up the ante. We're willing to put RJ in. No, to me, and I'm not trying to question any of the messengers. I'm questioning the message itself. It feels like you put out that the Knicks are willing to trade RJ Barrett, who I think a lot of people would say is their best trade chip in the eyes of what a rebuilding team would want. Sure. Suddenly it's crap. We have to get up to the RJ level now, as if before with Fournier and Obi and picks, fine. But now we have to match with RJ. It's further, to me, it is further saying, how are we supposed to enter this race? And then you bring the Cavs into the fold. And I was puzzled as to why that might be there. And you find out later, well, who are the players who are not on the table? It was Evan Mobley, it was Darius Garland, it was Jarrett Allen. So who's really left? There were lingering thoughts before about Sexton and the Jazz. Yeah. To me, I thought it was kind of like this, the Cavs and the Knicks doing each other a solid. The Cavs are basically trying to leverage Colin Sexton to sign the offer so they can bring him back, or they could do a sign and trade and get that all done. But the math is pretty difficult there. And you might be thinking, well, how does it work with the Knicks? Why would they want more suitors? But then they drop out. So, and then you see with the Athletic, Donovan Mitchell, he's not forcing a trade. He's totally not forcing a trade. But if he were to be traded, he'd want to be in New York. Yeah. He'd want to be in Brooklyn. He'd want to be in Miami. Brooklyn, we know about Ben Simmons, the challenges there. Miami, we know that the offers just aren't great. And you go through all of these things, and then you see Patrick Beverley gets traded for Taylor Horton-Tucker and Stanley Johnson, and no picks attached. And, oh, hey, remember how Danny Ainge totally didn't want any future salary, right? Like, God forbid he pays Cam Reddish at any point, despite the fact that they have tons of cap space, aren't going to be looking to get any great free agents, not going to be a salary dumping ground because there are plenty of other teams in the same position that have a lot of cap space and can do the same thing. No. Forget about the fact that they're terrified of paying Cam Reddish. They're totally cool with Taylor Horton-Tucker and his $10 million player option, which has no effect whatsoever on their financial planning. But yeah, all right, cool. They don't want RJ. They don't want Cam. Whatever. Not even trying to compare Cam and Taylor Horton-Tucker. I would rather take the risk on Cam Reddish and getting his next contract, because if he pops, great. If he doesn't, his market's going to be pretty good. Whereas with Taylor Horton-Tucker, it's, okay, are we saying he's going to be worth the $10 million player option that he's probably going to take? And if he's better than that, you're locking into Taylor Horton-Tucker for a multi-year deal. All of this to say, I found this entire week from afar just to be one smokescreen after another. And I get it. I'm not trying to say the Knicks have zero interest in ever parting with RJ Barrett. I'm not saying that people are lying to you, to Ian, to Mark, whatever it is. I just think there is a very concerted campaign right now happening in full effect to wrap this up, because both sides want this to get over with. The Jazz don't have other people who want to dance with them. And the Knicks just want to say, let's just move on, because we may want to move other players afterwards.
So I agree. Both sides want to get this done. You asked in the beginning of that, what was the intervening event? And I wonder where RJ's contract comes into play.
That was my thought too, John,
with all this, and that's the last thing I wanted to say on RJ, and again, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I don't think this is going to happen. I think he will continue to improve. I think he's going to get better. But if the Knicks, not John Macri, if the Knicks look at RJ Barrett and they say, shit, what are our models? They're a lot smarter than us. What do our models say, or what are the odds that RJ on a $30 million a year deal turns into a negative asset? And that's what his camp wants, let's just say. Or that's like their low number. Then how would that factor in here if that was part of their internal conversation? That's the only thing I'm wondering.
I hear you. I don't think it's as much of a concern for the same reason. And granted, I know that he was on the second team All-NBA and they didn't expect him to be quite as bad as he was last year. But the Knicks basically said, even if we don't see Julius Randle as a future piece, even if things start to go sideways and he regresses, we're comfortable locking him into this deal because of the fact that we have team control moving forward. The money part, I'm not saying the money isn't important. There's a piece of it. And I hear what you're saying. If he's making however much and the production's not there, are we looking at him as a, bad contract, so to speak? I don't think that we will get there. I really don't.
I don't think we're going to get there either. I'm just trying to come at this considering the range of possibilities. And I feel like, and I was a little bit more into Twitter this week. This week was a lot of everybody trying to come up with theories as to like why Ian's report was essentially not true. And there is nothing, I believe, in Knicksdom more than the sanctity of Ian Begley's reporting. Like literally nothing. And if he's and the other thing I was going to jump in with, and I didn't, I'll say it now. Ian had like pegged the Jazz possibly being interested in Barrett as far back as a month and a half ago. So that part of this isn't new, which again I think is at least relevant to the conversation here.
Yeah, I'm not saying it isn't. It's more just what was the offer as well. It was Mitchell Robinson and RJ Barrett.
Yes.
And some picks. Like financially, that it doesn't even really compute because of the sign and trade and base year compensation and all that. And one more thing I want to add. One thing I did see when I was on Twitter was with that Fournier, Obi picks and additional salary deal, there was a sentiment of like, that's enough. You don't have to include Obi. Cool. But folks, if you feel that way, the math doesn't work. You got to substitute someone in to get there. Okay. Well, it goes back to Cam. What's the deal with Cam Reddish? Okay. Is he not wanted by the Jazz? Are you going to make this into a 3-team deal? You have to put some piece into another. It's less about the assets. It's more about that. But the one other kind of fascinating part, well, actually, I'll save that because we'll get to it in a second. But, like it's just, you have to make the math work. It has to make sense for all parties. You have to, it just has to be cohesive. I get why the Jazz would have interest in RJ. And yet at the same time, I understand.
And they should.
Right. But
he's really fucking good.
Which then goes back to the Knicks perspective of, okay, well, why is it that we're scared to pay RJ? Moving RJ doesn't get us cap space, really, because if you're paying, and again, you have to make other moves. I'm not saying it can't do it, but it's also silly in my mind to have excess picks. I'll go back to the main point. I would rather move a fair amount of the picks and salary filler and a couple good pieces versus moving RJ, salary filler, and fewer firsts. I'm fine with believing in RJ, developing RJ, all of that. I believe that is more valuable than the gaggle of firsts that the Knicks can offer.
You know what we need actually for me, because I just want to double down on this, how much I love RJ Barrett. You know the I Heart NY shirt? Let's get an I Heart RJ shirt just for me to wear on every podcast.
In the works. Okay. 3 things. First of all, I trust Jeremy Cohen's knowledge of the economics of the NBA more than anything else in Knicksdom. That's one.
That's fair.
I think just having the conversation is what we had the other night. I really don't think we did it. We crossed any lines. And that was my point that I tried to make with JD the other night. Shout out to JD of Knicks.
Great pod.
Thank you. And I think all of us came away with the idea that like, I don't want to trade RJ, but if it brought the price down, it's a conversation to have. And I don't think it would honestly bring the price down enough that it's worth something that the Knicks would even pursue. The next part leads to my next question. And Charlie Ward jumped into the comments of Knicks Fan TV's Instagram and said, a lineup of Julius, RJ Barrett, Jalen Brunson, and Donovan Mitchell just wouldn't work. And there's a usage rate conversation to have about how all 4 of them would work together. So I'll go to John this time. Do you see a lineup of all 4 of them on the court at the same time for a lot of minutes next year being able to work out? For ball dominant, I shouldn't say ball dominant, 4 players that have shown that in order to succeed, they need the ball.
Well, no, except
for RJ off ball and Jalen Brunson's catch and shoot numbers are good, but you didn't bring him here to.
And Donovan Mitchell too.
But you didn't bring. So again, this goes back to a Julius conversation. But I think that's why the RJ part of this is so frustrating, because it's like, no, get rid of Julius, and we are a couple weeks away from training camp, and Julius Randle is still on this team.
I think it's a pretty simple answer. I think, can it work? Sure, it could work. 4 talented basketball players. All for one for all. Everybody's willing to make some sacrifices. Would it be messy? Sure. But is there any inherent basketball reason why it cannot work? No, I don't think there's any inherent basketball reason why it can't work. But the three of them have shown the proficiency to hit, knock down, catch and shoot threes. And Julius did for one season. And if we believe that his true value or his true ability as a 3-point shooter, as a floor spacer, is somewhere, it's not what we saw last year, but is rather in between what we saw last year and what we saw the year prior, then that's fine. It's a matter of willingness, and much more, I think, on the nose it's a matter of, is it the best possible use of resources? And I think everybody would agree that it's not the best possible use of resources, but like, if that's their lineup going into the next year, is it the end of the world? No, it's not the end of the world. It's just, but again, that's not going to be a finished product. So it's just fine. Jeremy.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in it. I get the logic behind, okay, well, can this open up opportunities? I really don't think so.
You don't think it could work, those four together?
I don't. Again, we can say they're talented. We could say that they can work off ball and whatnot. But to me, Julius Randle, even if the shooting increases from what it was last year, which doesn't say a whole lot, just because of how inefficient it was, there's only one basketball.
Could you live with it for 50 games if you had to?
I mean, I don't really think you can. Like, what does living with it for 50 games mean? What happens if things go belly up and now we're questioning Leon Rose's moves, and why did he go in and get Donovan Mitchell this early if he knew there was a problem? And what is his way out of it? Like, I'm looking more at the glass half empty perspective. The glass half full is, yeah, you get these guys and you get good talents, you're saying, and you figure it out. But to me, it's if you take the ball out of Julius Randle's hands for too long, what is he going to provide for you on offense?
And that's why
it's more. It's not a knock on him per se. It's more just he's someone who's higher usage. You can't have you can't tell a leopard to change its spots, or a zebra to change its stripes. Right. Like it is who he is. And this is finding the right fit that modifies or that puts him in the best position to succeed. I don't think it's that lineup.
And this is going to lead into our next question, I think. But that's why I think, for as hard as the Knicks are trying to acquire Donovan Mitchell at a price that is amenable to them, I think they are trying like 90% as hard as that to move on from Julius Randle.
Well, to Jeremy's point about it not seeing it working, just to add on top of that, I meant to mention this to JD the other night, but we ran out of time. The actual nightmare scenario with this lineup is, I'm assuming that in order to get Donovan Mitchell, Obi went elsewhere. If it's not working with these four in the lineup and Obi does the Domantas Sabonis that you suggested could happen, John.
Oh boy.
Like, that's the actual nightmare that Leon Rose is should be afraid of, that he gave Julius's backup away. Well, not gave away, traded Julius's backup away for Donovan Mitchell, extended Julius, and now here we are. That's the scenario. I think that's the actual 50 games that I don't think you could be afraid that he lives with, And
that's the one thing he hasn't had on his resume yet. I mean, we could sit here and quibble about how good Leon Rose has done. He hasn't had any move on his resume yet that has really been bad. Mm-hmm. The worst one, it's funny, ironically, that we're talking about this. The worst one, arguably, I'm saying arguably, is Obi over Halliburton. And I don't even think that's.
You don't think it could be Cam I understand what Cam's value could be in a trade, but the Hawks did use that pick for.
They didn't use that pick for shit. That was
they threw that into a trade.
They threw it in.
But they were able to do that instead of Cam Reddish.
You guys,
the Spurs wouldn't have wanted Cam Reddish.
But okay, so they used a pick that they traded for him.
So the Knicks trying to do the same thing, taking a pick that they felt wasn't going to accrue in as much value and turning it into Cam Reddish in the hopes that Cam Reddish turns into something of better value.
They took a shot.
But do you think the Knicks? Sometimes. Okay, do you think the Knicks would be having an easier time adding a pick to this deal for Donovan Mitchell, so it doesn't matter?
Well, the pick also would have happened already, right? Because it was this year's.
No, it didn't happen yet.
Okay, let's look at the elephant in the room.
That's it.
Here,
Danny Ainge is like that. If you had that Hornets pick.
Well, but this is the thing. When the trade on draft night in 2021 was made, there was not the assumption that something would go wrong with one of their players now being unhireable because of a heinous act that he allegedly committed. And it's the sort of thing where if they don't improve, they're going to hold on to that pick. and it's not going to go anywhere. And so if you're Danny Ainge, you're like, all right, this first could turn into a couple seconds. Like, I'm not saying, like, basically what you need to find out is if another team values Cam Reddish more than 2 seconds. And it seems like you could find one team that hopefully does it. And if you can't find them right now, then you wait and then you look later, or you hang on to them and you move them when the time is right, if you even need to.
So moving on, Suns Twitter is now back in the market for new players. Kevin Durant went back to the team he was already on. And we might get a Suns person on this week to do some scuttlebutt about what they might want for Julius Randle. I don't want to, and this is no disrespect to our friends over at the Timeline podcast on the Blue Wire podcast network, the Suns podcast for Blue Wire, but I can't say that they have front office insight, at least not yet. So just the fact that the Suns fans are interested in Julius, and there is clearly other places, like you've thrown Charlotte out there as an option. There is the report that the Lakers are not interested in Julius, but do you see any last minute chance that Julius is traded in the next couple weeks? I know you've reported, John, that they are trying to trade Julius. But do you see it happening over the next couple of weeks? I think that would, all of these things about adding or RJ going or Donovan Mitchell or Obi go, it's all centered around the frustrations around Julius Randle and what him being part of any solution next season and whether that's likely or not.
I'm going to go first just because I'm going to give kudos to Jeremy. After all these months, I still think the Hornets, his team that he spotlighted, I don't know how long ago, it's been a while now, are the most likely team. I have no idea what the Suns' interest in Julius Randle might be. I think it's probably overblown, but I would bet on the Hornets. And if we're really going to get crazy, we love our 4-team trades here in Knicks land with Julius going to Charlotte, Gordon Hayward heading over to LA. It's a lot of money if you're talking about Bogey going to and something potentially coming from the Knicks. I think the only other contract they could trade, Jeremy, is none, right? They can't even trade anything else.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, but you could get to a high number because of the, whatever, we don't have to get into that. But the Hornets, that's my answer. The Hornets.
Yeah. They've done nothing. Really?
Literally?
No, I mean, their moves for improvement where they traded one of their firsts and then they took a center with their other one. They didn't re-sign Miles Bridges for reasons as discussed. I don't know what else. This is why it's funny because there was a time where we were going to potentially talk about more salary stuff. You're like, let's hit pause for the moment. And to me, I don't know if you can make it a 3 or a 4-team deal, but I look at Charlotte, which is another team that needs to kind of consolidate its roster, so to speak, and doesn't have a ton of assets. This is certainly not ones that they're willing to give up that are great, but it's the sort of thing where, okay, if you move Kelly Oubre Jr. and Plumlee in some sort of transaction, send that money out and you take Julius Randle in, then you're kind of solving both issues at once, which is you find a higher usage player to work with LaMelo to play the 4, what you couldn't have had because Bridges is not seemingly going to be playing. And then you also get 2 players out. I mean, of course, the Knicks don't need Oubre unless Cam is out, and they still may not need him, but they could use wings. They definitely don't need Plumlee. Plumlee going to LA in some capacity, right? Because they certainly
have centers already, though.
But who's their best center? Is it Thomas Bryant?
The guy you like played last year in Sacramento.
Damian Jones. Yeah, but I think they need an upgrade.
Maybe.
And again, we can talk about Miles Turner, but if they're finding other,
he's expiring guys, too, though.
He is.
So it's a Utah candidate, but again, we're roping into a bigger deal here.
But that's the thing. If you can then send them to Utah instead, or whatever it is, but yes, that for me, Phoenix. And I'm curious to hear what people who are more familiar with Phoenix would have to say. But I look at them and I'm thinking, all right, you got Chris Paul, you have Devin Booker, you have Mikal Bridges, and you have DeAndre Ayton. Ayton just signed a max deal. He's going to want touches. He's already a high usage center to begin with. Mm-hmm. You're adding another player in Randle who needs touches as well. You've got Booker. It's not that Booker and Paul can't play off ball. They're fantastic. It's just, are there better players they can find? and then the math, as John has pointed out too, you're basically looking at what Crowder, Shamet, Saric. I mean,
Saric,
it's not easy. And then you're going back to the Knicks. Okay, well, congrats. They already need to cut the roster down in some capacity. What are we doing with more players than the Knicks had before, like right now? So yeah, if you're moving Donovan Mitchell in, you have to probably move Julius Randle out. And if you're moving one in and one out, you also need to find a way to get that roster closer to 10, 11, as opposed to what is really now 12, arguably 13, even though Jericho Sims isn't going to get playing time unless someone's injured.
So then I'm going to hold you guys to the actual, like the question, is Julius Randle here in the next 3 weeks?
No.
Okay.
I think he's traded. I think he ends up as a Hornet.
Okay. I hope you enjoy Charlotte, Julius. Next up, first of all, I think it might be our last chance because I think they'll be really good this year, but I want to take 10 seconds and laugh at the Nets. Okay. How does Kevin Durant re-agreeing to his 4-year contract in Brooklyn affect the Knicks, if in any way? Jeremy?
Doesn't really. I didn't think that was going to be a problem that would affect the CBA. The Nets having the stones to say, hey, we're not moving you. I don't like teams are going to say, oh, yeah, okay. But as you guys have mentioned, it's 2 years. The 4-year part, it's very different. It's just a very different situation. He signed the contract. I'm all for player empowerment. If he wanted to raise the leverage he had, and I get why he signed it, but he then shouldn't have signed it. He only has himself to blame from that. And I feel really bad for Nets fans. I mean, not really, but the fact that now they have to deal with Kevin Durant not wanting to be there and having to buy in, and there's not a ton of leadership, and they still need to improve the team. It's just, there's a lot going on. So no, I don't think it really affects the Knicks at all. No.
We could go one of two directions here. You could say, as some intimated, put some more people in the Donovan Mitchell hunt. I don't buy that. That's one. Two, we could go on a very long thing about player empowerment, as Jeremy just said, and how is Durant's failure to get his demands met. Does that mean that players who have, more than a couple of years left on their deal will face similar issues getting off teams that they don't want to be on? And could that hurt the Knicks in their attempt to trade for, let's say this doesn't work out, or let's say it does work out and they're trying to add to Donovan Mitchell, whatever. I can't even go there either, because I think this Durant thing, the more I think about it, it's so unique. He's the third or fourth best player, or the first, I don't know. He's one of the top 3 or 4 players in basketball on a team that has traded away everything. They're looking for something so specific for him because they have no picks. And I don't think this means that a guy with 4 years left on a deal can't get his way off a team. I think it means that this guy can't get his way off a team because the team that employs him looked at it, the situation probably correctly, and been like, you know what? We'll take the chance. Sit out.
Go a step further. It's that this guy can't force his way off of this team, the one that he perfectly cultivated and forced them to trade James Harden and fire the coach when he got there. Yeah. Like, this is the team that he could not do this type of trade because of the situation that, all the moves have left them in. Okay.
I just want one very quick. In my opinion, if he were top 3 or 4 best player, then teams would have upped to the ante in terms of what they got.
But he's also old, and he also has a torn ACL on his resume.
And that's what Jeremy's saying, is that because he's not a top.
If we're talking pure talent, then
I'm not saying asset. He's not a top 3. I don't know where I ranked him on Patreon, but it's like, if you had to, the proverbial, if you had a game 7 to win today, is he was he the first, second, or third? I think he's on that somewhere on that.
He's somewhere on the line.
Jeremy, best joke of the day. It's why the Celtics deal was the only one where I said, oh, that could actually, if the Celtics threw in another pick, that could actually be something, because you're getting Jaylen Brown. The Celtics then get 4 years to go at it with Tatum and Durant. And if that's not enough, then I don't know what is for the Nets.
And Ayton messed it up.
Yeah. According to Mark Stein, though, a team that this does affect is the Lakers, because they will be part of any 3-team deal if the Knicks do trade for Donovan Mitchell. In fact, the exact thing that Stein had in his newsletter today is that should the Knicks win a trade for Donovan Mitchell, the Lakers would be involved making it a 3-team trade. So you guys who know the machinations of a 3-team trade and how they work often, what would a 3-team deal look like? Who is no longer on the Knicks in this scenario? And how would the Lakers be able to help the Knicks potentially make this deal happen?
From just a pure dollars and cents point of view, my head, the first thing I go to is the Lakers. I think I could see a world where they look at it as an absolute steal to get Bogdan Bogdanović and Evan Fournier for their 2027 first round pick.
Boyan.
Excuse me. What did I say?
They're
Bogdan?
two Bogdanović. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
The one on the
Utah.
Jazz.
Yes. Boyan.
Who is not clean shaven. He has scruff.
Scruff. Yeah.
You did stubble and scruff.
Stubble. I think I was
Scrubble.
naming like an egg dish that's with all
Scramble?
kinds of things. Scramble. Yes, he has the one with egg scramble on his face. Off the rails.
Yes.
I think they would like that. Especially if you threw in a Cam Reddish. I think they'd be really interested. Then they would sign up in a heartbeat for doing that for a first round pick. And then the question is, well, would they rather have that than, because they could just cut out the Knicks here. So would they rather have Boyan and Evan Fournier and Cam, or would they do the same deal if it was Boyan and Mike Conley, or if it was Boyan and Mikal Beasley? And maybe you need to put other salary, and I haven't run all of the numbers on this yet, but it makes sense from the perspective of the Knicks can add value to this, whereas it doesn't increase the cost for LA. And obviously the whole key of this is Utah has to feel like they are getting something that they otherwise would be unable to get were the Knicks not to be involved in this transaction. That's, I think, really the crux of what it comes down to. And that's why I think the Cam piece is very important. How high is LA on Cam? I think the Fournier piece is pretty important. Because I think Fournier on that Lakers team, I think he could absolutely make a very positive difference. I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting. I would have thrown Derrick Rose's name in here as well, except they just traded for Pat Beverly. So I think that likelihood is diminished. But yeah, from a vague outline of it, I do think it makes sense.
It would appear that my Keldon Johnson is your Malik Beasley.
Yeah, you might call him Mikal Beasley.
What did I say?
Mikal Beasley. Same 5 letters though, to be fair.
Malik Mikal.
It's a scramble.
So close.
That's okay.
Keldon. What did you call him?
Oh, Kendall Johnson.
Yes. Kendall.
Yeah. So
6 to 1 after the other.
Exactly. So I just want to set the stage real quick. The Lakers, when they traded for Beverly, they were basically given the opportunity to open up $30 million in cap space for the 2023 offseason. And the Lakers are tripping me up because that is not enough money for a full max salary, right? Even if you were to look at a player with 0 to 6 years of experience, it's not going to be enough money to sign that player. And then you think of, okay, well, if Kyrie Irving wanted to leave, would he take less money? It's certainly, there's a difference between sacrificing $30 million this summer when he opted in versus taking the taxpayer mid-level exception. So maybe they would. Maybe it's a door they're willing to keep open, and then they just have a bunch of minimum players. But the more I think about it, the more I feel as though they're going to go back to what won them a championship, which is relying on LeBron James, Anthony Davis, a great cast of supporting role players, and hope for the best.
And defense.
And defense, right. They have a phenomenal defense. And it's, how do you get back to that point? And honestly, it's tough. But the reason why I'm highlighting is because if you are the Lakers, are you then trying to make every move to get expiring money? Or are you comfortable finishing this year over the salary cap? The Knicks only have one player who can become a free agent that's worth what they'd want. And that's Derrick Rose. And as you're saying, I agree. Patrick Beverley being on the Knicks, you would think, okay, well, I'm being on the Lakers.
On the Lakers, yeah.
That might influence Derrick Rose. And it might. There also could be the capacity that they know it's a long offseason. Derrick Rose isn't always the most healthy.
Yeah.
You have him there. Let's say they want someone like Miles Turner down the line.
Doesn't take him off the table.
Right. Like, you just get as much positive value as you can on the team and go from there. And I know we just.
So you think Rose before Fournier?
Well, but here's the thing. I know we just talked about defense. This is not a prediction. It's just merely me playing around with the trade machine and trying to figure out something. And I'm leaving exact picks off the table. But if the Knicks if this were a 3-team deal, and the Knicks get Donovan Mitchell and then for the math, Kendrick Nunn, the Jazz get Russ, they buy him out or waive him, Quentin Grimes. And then the Lakers get Rose, Bogdanovich, and Fournier. This is how the math shakes out, John and Andrew. The Knicks take back $804,000 more than they have right now. The Jazz see their bill get cut by $561,000, and the Lakers have their bill cut by $242,000. So if you were looking for a deal where the math is as close to even pretty much as you're going to get, this is it. And now, again, I'm not saying that if you're the Knicks, you want to get Kendrick Nunn, that you want to give up all these pieces. Sure, but like if math were the focus here, where you don't have to worry about it rising and falling, that's this. But yeah, you have Cam Reddish.
It does work with Cam in place of Rose, though, too, right?
Yeah. If it doesn't, you still can. You can find a way to kind of.
You could, yeah.
Right. So that's the thing, and it goes back to. It was very clear that the Knicks tried to trade Cam Reddish to the Lakers. He's a clutch client. If the Lakers want to be over the salary cap and they're willing to trade picks, and you can argue two things, right? You could say we got rid of Russell Westbrook and we got assets, value back that can help us in the short term and the long term. And maybe it costs them an unprotected 2027 first and a protected 2029 first. And then you send those assets to Danny Ainge. The Knicks send, maybe it's 2 unprotected and 1 protected first. Maybe, maybe it's
the
a
Lakers.
They can't give up
both of them.
I agree. I agree with you. And
they can't.
But that's the thought process here and why it gets so complicated. It's first, do the Lakers want to be over the cap or under the cap? Next, what do they want? What are they willing to do? And then it goes to Randall, who I still don't see as a great fit there. It's why I think a separate trade or looping it in to be a 4-team trade. Because we're already adding a third. Obviously, as we have discussed at length, just 2 teams is the easiest thing to do. Add a 3rd team, it's a little tricky. Add a 4th, it's even trickier. But that's not to say that the Knicks can't now loop in the Lakers. And the thing I'm very curious about is Stein suggesting that Bogdanovich and Fournier going to the Lakers is like hypothetical, or is he basically doing something that's like wink, wink, nudge, nudge? What if this were the case? I feel like you can read between the lines, and yet at the same time, I don't know if he's just purely guessing based on some of the intel, but not solid intel that he has. Yeah.
I'm just literally talking out of my ass here. Bogdanovich, Rose, Cam. No, and Clarkson. Yeah, no, you could, I think, and Clarkson. I think that math checks out for the Lakers. Checks out for the Jazz, I think. Right, Jeremy? I think I know I'm asking. I'll pull it up.
The one thing I do want to add, there's no world in which I think the Knicks should be moving Fournier and Cam Reddish, just I don't know what the wing depth looks like. We talked about it with RJ.
If they keep Grimes, it's fine. All right, for this year.
But at least one young player is going to need to go to.
Well, then maybe it's Obi. Maybe this whole contraption is how the Knicks hang on to Quentin Grimes.
Just my opinion here. Another reason I'm really okay with moving Grimes. I know you love him. I like him a lot. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he'll have the opportunity in New York to show what it seems like you feel he might become. But even still, because of the fact that Rokas Jokubaitis could come over next offseason and essentially replace Rose. And if we were looking at a team that had Brunson and Mitchell and, Quickly and Grimes, and you have Jokubaitis coming in. And I mean, again, to me, sorry, Chris, he's more of an afterthought, and Deuce McBride, just based on the math and whatnot working. There's a logjam there too. And so if Jokubaitis can run the offense, if you have Quickly with him running the offense too, that's a great tandem to have off the bench behind Brunson and Mitchell. to me, and like, okay, Grimes doesn't have to be there because you've then converted him into a star 2 guard. I get it. You disagree. That's okay. It's cool.
I'm just very high on Quentin Grimes.
I'm very high on Summer League, but that's okay.
The point is, maybe there is a way to get that second Lakers pick in the trade. So wait, do we need to answer like yes? Do we think it'll be a 3-team deal?
You're gonna wait until I get to this next question, which does ask you what the deal will be.
Okay,
and it's more about the leaks are leaking, the birds are tweeting, the butts are scuttling. In the end, do you think we're getting a trade in the next 2 or 3 weeks? I think the answer is yes across the board. More importantly, and this will also lead into the next question.
2 or 3 weeks.
Whatever. The start of training camp is my point. That's the deadline I'm setting. Okay. What players are gone? Because this will lead into the second to last question after this. So like what players will be gone?
I'll let Jeremy go first.
Oh, great. Thanks. Yeah.
Do you want me to answer first? It was your turn.
Actually. Yeah. No. I appreciate
I'll answer first.
I haven't been able to sit in front of a computer and do trade NBA. So I'm going to, as you're doing,
I'll answer first.
Cool.
Okay. Yes, the trade happens. The players that are gone are Evan Fournier. Cam, somehow, some way. And man, what does Ainge really? We know what he really wants. This hurts. This hurts. Obi.
Wow. Okay, Jeremy.
All right, I got it. Math works for this, so I'm going to roll it out. So here's what I'm going to say. I think that, yes, this does happen in the next couple of weeks. In fact, it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if it happens this week. I will be going to a movie on Tuesday. I expect it to happen Tuesday night.
During the movie. Okay.
Yes. Just hope I'm going to see Bullet Train. Hopefully they just say on it like, oh yeah, did you hear about that crazy trade that just happened right now? I'm like, cool, Brad Pitt. Oh, fuck. That means that I have to leave. Anyways, Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks, to the Lakers, Bojan Bogdanovic, Jordan Clarkson, Cam Reddish, to the Jazz, Derrick Rose, Russell Westbrook, who they will waive, Quentin Grimes, Miles McBride. Picks from the Knicks, picks from the Lakers. They find a way to kind of beef up their team. And if they need to get a center, they can always scour the buyout market, or they could always try to flip someone, especially if there's an injury of sorts. But I feel like from the Lakers perspective, you get what you would have gotten in Fournier and Bogdanovic from the spacing, less creation probably, but nevertheless, Clarkson gives you someone in the second unit who can actually run some offense and cook when you need him to.
Different player too.
Exactly. And then it's Cam, who, as we've talked about before, fitting in as a wing, someone you can have moving forward. For the Jazz, it's, we know that they don't seem to want Evan Fournier because of the contract. Again, I would push back, but that doesn't matter. Derrick Rose expiring salary. If they want him to be one, they can try to ring him out for more of an asset. They can always send him home. Russ, speaking of which, they will send him home. They get Grimes, who they can just, plop right in there, starting unit, and then Deuce makes the math work. And when they trade Conley, they've got Deuce McBride to just plug in and go.
So this now leads to the second to last question, last serious one, I'll say. I saw John's consternation about trading Obi, and as much as you might not necessarily believe the ceiling of Quentin Grimes has gone up from Summer League, Jeremy, there is a crowd out there that does. I asked this to JD, and I think our role as content creators, that while we are informed, we're fans. Is there a world where we're doing a post-game live stream, or an emergency live stream after a trade has happened and everybody's happy? Or will there be?
What, are you fucking kidding?
What? I'm saying, but the point is there a world where we can say we got Donovan Mitchell or even just Quentin Grimes going out?
We will never have everyone agree on anything. But there could be, again, it reminds me of like George Costanza when he's with Bernie Williams and Derek Jeter on Seinfeld. And they talk about, we won the World Series. And it's like, in 6 games. 6 games. That's what it'll be like.
Okay. To my point, though, will the loss of draft picks, I honestly don't think people care about the picks at this point. Like, will the loss of these kids that have, especially Obi, who has has Julius in front of him, but there is a wave of Obi fandom here. Quickly, I know, also has the same support. And Grimes has a contingent growing, we already went through the RJ thing. Is there a way that we're able to have a trade reaction to this? And it's like, holy crap, the Knicks got Donovan Mitchell and not but that comes after.
There is the ironic thing, and let's choose my words carefully here. I think the thing that would leave, I don't know about that. I think the thing that would leave a lot of Knicks fans the happiest would also be the thing that would be worst for them, which is it's just all draft equity. And we're talking 25, 27, 29, or I know we did the years where maybe it's more likely that it's 26, 24, 26, 28 with a swap in 29 and a swap in 27. But the Knicks keep all the kids. We get all the kids. We get to watch all the kids, right?
No, can't do it. No, I would throw up on a live.
Jeremy
I would actually throw up.
I would, because I don't think that's going to happen. But if you're asking me, I'm answering the question. The question is, what's the world where there's the most possibility of kumbaya? It's like, hey, we get to watch Donovan Mitchell and all the kids. And meanwhile, there's no draft picks left.
The perfect scenario is that the Knicks give up something, but not a ton, because of the fact that LeBron leveraged his contract situation into build around me. And the Lakers say, yes, sir, we're on it. And they find a way to then pay more equity. The Knicks get a little bit of slack. They still get Donovan Mitchell. Fans rationalize it because it's a lot of times what fandom really can be. And then we move on. And then we find out what happens to Julius Randle, if anything.
If I agree, the chance that the actual best case for a real win for this trade, it rests in LA. 1000% it rests in LA. And maybe Charlotte.
But it's why, if as a result of this trade, Obi goes, John, to John's suggestion, because they couldn't find a partner for Julius Randle. And that's what I'm imagining is we got Donovan, but it's that starting five that people think is clunky, that Jeremy said wouldn't work well. And yet they're going with that. And they traded picks and they traded Obi, who has a ceiling that people don't know if it exists yet.
If the worst thing about this is they have to deal with Julius Randle on this roster for another X amount of months, if that is the worst thing about this, we should all be dancing in the streets.
Yeah. And again, I will go to the one point of you're telling me, and I don't know what Charlotte's up to, but Randle for Oubre, Plumlee, and 1 second round pick that. Randle is not that bad that it's okay. A player that Michael Jordan was shaking his head at, and Oubre with some of the decisions he was making, and Plumlee was in his 30s and an expiring contract. You can't tell me that package is so difficult for Charlotte that they would never do it. I'm sorry. I just don't believe it. I'm not saying they will do it, but that is a light package for a player who will never go to Charlotte because Charlotte's not a free agent destination.
Honest question here. Why haven't they done it yet then?
I think they're waiting on Mitchell.
Waiting on the Mitchell trade.
Yeah, they're waiting on Mitchell.
So then that's why Jeremy's suggesting Grimes goes in the deal, because the Knicks, in all likelihood, imagine Obi as part of the future with a Donovan Mitchell starting five.
Yeah, well, the interim, the next few years.
Shout out to Prez. I think he had something on this on Twitter a few days ago, or maybe it was a week ago. I don't know. At some point, but talking about the world in which neither Julius Randle or Obi Toppin is on the Knicks next year, which I don't think that's insane at all. Especially since, in terms of if the Jazz do need to send out more salary filler to the Knicks, the most likely player for that position is Rudy Gay, who I know there's not a Knicks fan alive who wants anything to do with Rudy Gay in a Knicks uniform. But like, he could, if you really want to get rid of Randall, and if you need to include Obi in the trade, he's a warm body.
You know what I want, John. As my starting power forward next year.
Starting, God.
Listen, if
Rudy Gay would start, bro.
No, buy him out, and then 3 to the dome, baby. I know you have to run, John. So
yes, I do.
You can answer partially this question before we go, but I know that you don't have a lot of TV time. The last question, since it is still summer, I figured we'd have some fun, and we've been taking time to enjoy other non-basketball things. What's a piece of summer content that you've enjoyed? A movie that you caught up on, a TV show that you caught up on, a book, something streaming?
First of all, apologies. I do have to run. This is the once a month that my wife and I have a sitter, and I am 15 minutes over when I was supposed to be out here by, so I can get in the shower. Go ahead. It's okay. Second of all, this was a lot of fun. It was great to be back on with you guys. I miss you genuinely. Jeremy, it's good to have you back. Andrew, I still talk to you like every other day. So
I saw you Wednesday.
Yes. We literally saw each other.
We are friends in real life. Yes.
Or whatever it is, 4 days ago. Yes. Recommendation for a movie I watched with my family last night, and it was intended to be appealing to my older daughter, Scarlet Ray. But of course, I was the one who ended up glued to the TV screen. And that's The Sea Beast on Netflix. Really, really, really enjoyed it in every aspect. It's an animated film. I know if you're listening to this, you're like, why are you recommending a cartoon? It is like it's smart. It's so much smarter than a lot of the kids' movies that are out there. It is beautifully animated. And it is more, I'll say, I don't know if this will resonate, but I don't know what other words to describe. It's more mature than your average kids movie. Like in terms from like the dialogue to like the message at the end and like the, quote unquote moral of the story. So it's on Netflix. Everybody has Netflix. Go. It's like under 2 hours. The Sea Beast. Check it out. My wholehearted recommendation.
Okay. Just last question before you get out of here. Are you watching Game of Dragons, House of the Dragon? What's it called? House of the Dragon.
I'm not watching any dragons.
Okay.
Not yet, at least. I probably will.
I'll see if Jeremy is, and if he is, we'll talk about it. John Macri, ladies and gentlemen. Jeremy, what is your recommendation for summer streaming that you've caught up on?
Oh, man.
Or summer content that you've caught up on?
Summer content. Well, I caught up on, as you know, I watched The Boys.
Yes.
That was great. Better Call Saul. Mm-hmm. Incredible ending.
I also caught up on Better Call Saul.
Yes, you did. You caught up just in time.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Man, so it ended in an odd way, but I was still a huge fan of The Rehearsal.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I saw The Rehearsal.
Yeah. I'm a huge Nathan Fielder fan. I love him. Nathan For You is one of my favorite shows. It's just the amount of cringe that you feel is almost necessary. But no, it's just how it was done. It was the way it just got more meta as each episode seemed to go on. It was crazy. So that, watching She-Hulk now, I think that's really well done. Finally getting back into kind of like the Marvel mindset, because I just was getting Marvel fatigue. And I think there's probably something else that I really loved. I know there is. I can't think of it at the moment.
First of all, are you watching House of the Dragon, the Game of Thrones thing?
I gotta be honest. The last season of Game of Thrones was so bad that I just want nothing to do with it.
Same. Episode 1 is strong. That's all I'm going to say. It is so much like season 1 Game of Thrones, where you're caught up in the politics of the throne, and they came out of the gates. Like, it's very much like a Mufasa, Simba, Uncle Scar going on to start, but I'm in, very much in so far. They have like a male Cersei, and how badass one of these characters is. And I think you'd enjoy at least episode 1 and then go from there. The Rehearsal. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. It's only 6 episodes. They're about half an hour long. The premise is that Nathan Fielder, a comedian who starred in Nathan For You, another show also on HBO,
Comedy Central.
Comedy Central, excuse me. But I think you can watch it on HBO if you want to binge it. For 4 seasons, he has a new show called The Rehearsal, in which he takes regular non-actors and has them rehearse real life pickles scenarios that they're getting into. There's a guy that's always wanted to confess a lie he told 10 years ago. So Nathan goes and builds the bar that they're going to have.
Don't say.
I'm literally giving away episode 1.
I'm saying, honestly, the way I said it to my dad was, he said, what's it about? I said, I'm not even going to tell you. It's not like, it's the sort of thing you walk into it and you're overwhelmed by what it's about. Because I had no idea going through it. I knew a little bit, but then it just gets so layered and how they do it that your mind gets blown.
The process of the rehearsal being, imagine how many times if we had 4 or 5, or in this case, 30 chances to rehearse a podcast, how perfect the 31st episode would be. So I appreciate the process of it all. I will just say, and people go watch it if you haven't, there's a character that's not an actor. She's a real person named Angela. And in my religious upbringing, I met so many Angelas, almost married one about a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, man, like this show, just, like to an extent points fun, but also because of the unpredictability of what real life people will do and how they just react based on that. And that guides kind of the direction of the show and the writing of the show then forth.
Yeah.
I hesitate to use the word brilliant.
No, I think it's
so well done and so good.
First episode I thought was one of the best opening episodes of a series I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Just from start to finish, you keep getting floored by what's happening. And then it's great. Another show I'll add is, I'm a huge fan of What We Do in the Shadows. They're just all so incredible. So that's been great. And it's been a good summer for content. Honestly.
It has been. Yeah.
I've seen a ton of movies, but
I'm just going to add I'm this week is when I'm catching up on movies. I finally caught up on television. The Better Call Saul versus Breaking Bad conversation, I'm just like not interested in. Yeah. I'm way more interested in is this the greatest achievement of like 2 shows blending into one, you know? Like you can't have Better Call Saul without Breaking Bad, but Better Call Saul makes Breaking Bad better. Cause now every scene that I watch of the lab, Gus's lab, I'm going to be thinking something else pertaining to Better Call Saul. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if collectively that's the conversation. Like this is the greatest achievement, one of the greatest achievements in television that's ever existed. It's 11 seasons across the 2 shows. And it's one of the better told consecutive stories that I think you'll ever see. So that's my take on that.
It doesn't make sense to me to say which one's better, because the fact that, as you're saying, we're looking at 11 seasons worth of content created by the same people, mm-hmm. and wondering, is one better than the other? Like that just goes to show how great both of them were. But I will say, there was a point in which off air, you and I were talking about, do you need to see can you see Better Call Saul before Breaking Bad? What I'm now of the opinion where, as before, I thought, you could totally watch Better Call Saul and then Breaking Bad. I don't think you can. There are enough things that happen in Better Call Saul, especially at the end, where you have to do it in the chronological order. You need to watch Breaking Bad, then El Camino, then go to Better Call Saul.
I think I need to rewatch El Camino, because you're now the second person that says you need to watch. And I thought that was a very forgettable mini
I saw it recently, honestly. And it was the first time. It was right before the final episode of Better Call Saul. It was fine. You know, it added some context. It was more, I was worried in the event that something got spoiled, I should really watch it just in case. It didn't matter. It's okay. It's a nice conclusion for a story arc, but it's not pivotal.
Okay. Well, you got recommendations on a whole bunch of stuff. The boy. Well, I mean, talk about The Boys. That's one thing I say going cold, because you should go watch your latest Marvel movie, then watch season 1 of The Boys if you haven't yet, and then you'll understand why it's just a nice change of pace. But
if you don't like violence, I wouldn't recommend it.
No,
Like gore,
no,
definitely wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, it's great.
or a word that starts with the letter C that like hurts your ears. That's we don't say it on this pod, so Oi, yes, that's a great way to put it, Jeremy.
Sorry to all British friends, but
thank you for listening. I hope we gave you some good recommendations, whether it be what we think will happen with the Knicks, potentially even this week, whether it be a movie, the one that John recommended, Sea Beast, or Better Call Saul, catching up on that, or The Rehearsal, which is a shorter commitment and a highly recommended thing from Jeremy and I. And potentially even tuning into some podcasts that will be releasing this week. I've got one on Tuesday, and then we might have a Suns guy later this week. And as far as the 5th pick draft is concerned, we still intend to do it. We may be adding a 4th panelist to that draft. So more on that later. Jeremy, is there anything you'd like to plug before we get out of here?
Yeah, if the trade goes down this week, if it could just go down when it's convenient with my schedule, that'd be great. Preferably after the hour, not in between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. And not Tuesday night. That would be great. Other than that, we're good.
Well, I was going to say on Tuesday night, I'm potentially going to the Mets game because it's Knicks night. I may also be doing a live stream with Rich McLeod. So if you want to watch the Mets with me, either in person or live, stay tuned to my Twitter feed. But yes, Knicks, please do nothing on Tuesday night. Don't let Knicks night on Tuesday be about the Knicks. Let it be about the Mets, please. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you dug this episode, do us a favor, head on over to iTunes and drop a 5-star rating and a review. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're at 10,100 and change and counting. Plenty of content coming there throughout the upcoming season. Obviously, the newsletter, the Patreon, all the great places to support us and get additional content. Until next time, thank you for listening, and we'll speak with you soon. Peace.